his first day in the dorm, his roommate comes running down the hall with this look on his face like, oh my god, my roommate just put up an NSYNC poster and he won't stop giggling and I don't know what's wrong with this guy.
Okay, it was summer, and I had moved out of the dorm and with my parents, who just lived across town. When I started college, we lived in different towns. After my freshman year, they moved back to Plainview, where I was going to college.
So I go running down the hall to see this NSYNC poster, and there's Doug. Shaggy haired, skinny, swimmer's build of a guy, giggling at his one poster on the wall. Empty wall and this single NSYNC poster, giggling, thinking it's the greatest idea he's ever had.
So I stayed in the dorm, but lived with him over the summer. And one Saturday morning, I woke up about 8. So I knew if I slept in, my mom would make me do chores. So I came up with an excuse. I need to get out. I went and got some breakfast burritos. And I was just driving around town looking for something to do. And I saw a garage sale. So I stopped by and I was looking through the tables, going through the stuff, and I heard a noise under one of the tables. And I looked and there was a box. And it said, ducks, $3. And I looked in and there were live ducks in the box. And it was an impulse purchase. I don't know why I did it, but I thought, that's a really good deal on a duck. To this day, I don't know if it was, but I bought a duck.
Doug thought it was a good idea at a garage sale that he found that they were selling baby ducks. And he's like, I'm going to keep a duck. I'm going to buy a duck and I'm going to keep it.
So then, had the duck in my car, and we're driving around. Windows were down, wind blowing through my hair. That was the last summer I could say that. Wind blowing through his feathers. And we had The Strokes is the sit on the stereo. And I was just trying to figure out how I was going to take this duck home and keep it, and I couldn't come up with anything. And it was getting close to lunchtime. I knew I had to do it. So I got to my parents' house, and I walked in with the duck behind my back. Looked around, they weren't there. I ran to the bathroom, put him in the bathtub, shut the door, and went. My parents were upstairs, so I said hi to them. They didn't look like they were about to get up. So I went in the backyard into the storage shed and found this cage that we used to keep a hedgehog in.
Buys the duck, realizes that his parents wouldn't let him have a duck, so he's going to hide it. In between the wall and his bed, he was going to keep a cage with a duck in it. Not realizing that this duck's going to get big and loud, and that his parents are eventually going to find out that there's a duck.
So I set up the cage in my room between my bed and the wall. So if you open the door, you only saw my bed. And we had some cedar chips from the hedgehog. I put that down at the bottom, water bowl for him. I think I found some Quaker oats. Put that in there because it's what Google told me to do. And I kept him there for a while. Bought him on a Saturday. Then the next Sunday, a week and a day, I just thought, this is getting ridiculous. He's keeping me up at night. It's not the right environment for a duck. So I decided to take him to the duck pond and leave him there.
This summer, I got a job at the radio station in town, and Doug had moved out of the dorm and to live with his parents. So I was living in a dorm by myself, and it was, I don't know, sometime 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Phone rings, and it's Doug, and he wakes me up, and he's giving me crap about waking up at 1 o'clock, and he's been at work all day. And I worked at night, and so I stayed up pretty late. And I'm like, who cares? Like, why are you waking me up? And he's like, well, so I bought a duck, and I can't keep it.
So I decided to get rid of the duck. So I took him out of my room. My parents were upstairs again. I thought, well, I've had him a week. I might as well let them know that I have a duck and I'm getting rid of it. So I stood at the bottom of the stairs and kind of threw him up. And he started running around the room, and my parents had this chihuahua, started chasing him. My dad started yelling, basically get that duck out of my house. You can't have a duck. I'm like, I know I can't have a duck. I'm leaving now to go to the duck pond. That's why I showed you. To which my mom said, and this is a pretty big story, but this is my favorite part of the story. My mom said, oh, I meant to ask you about that. So that tells me that not only had my hiding spot been crap and my mother found the duck, but she found a living duck in her house, made a mental note to ask me what was going on, and forgot that there was a living duck in her house. So...
I never heard that part of it.
Do I have to say that again,
Yeah, I think I can.
or okay? So I called Stigalo, see if he wanted to go to the duck pond with me. I woke him up, but he was groggy. He's like, "Fine, whatever you want to do." Yeah, I'm not doing anything today. So I went by the dorm, and our other friend Gibbs was there, and they were outside at a picnic table. They said they were waiting on a pizza, and so I showed up with the duck. And Gibbs said, "Oh, before you go, I'll call my dad and see if one of my little brothers would like a pet." And I thought, okay, cool. So he calls dad and is like, "Hey, do you think Esteban or Pablo would like a pet duck?" And his dad, Dr. Gibbs, said, "I'm sure they would, but you cannot give them one."
And I was like, okay, hold on. Let me call my stepmother and see. She had a pigeon farm, or what do you call it, like a bunch of pigeons that she kept. And so I was like, maybe she'll want a duck. She had a couple cats, a dog, a bunch of animals.
Chris said, "Actually, my stepmom has a bird sanctuary, and she might take the duck." To which I said, "What?" So, in their backyard, she has all those pigeons. And, I've been there, to their house. We had a barbecue there, a month before, in the backyard. I have no recollection of this pigeon thing. And also, I kind of got this reputation in the dorm as the pigeon guy. People kept talking about pigeon stuff to me because my first eBay purchase ever was a dead pigeon, and I didn't know what I was doing. I should have seen the outcome of what I was doing, but I accidentally bought a dead pigeon. So, anything about a pigeon, people came to me to say, and I had never heard of this pigeon thing. But I was like, fine, whatever. Call her, and he called her. He's like, "Hey, you know that pigeon sanctuary you have?" I was sitting there shaking my head. "No, she doesn't have it." And she said, "Yeah." He's like, "Would you like a duck for it?" And she said, "Sure." So okay, cool. So you got this taken care of? Yeah. It's like, all right, let me know how it goes. And I thought that she was going to come to town and pick him up that night.
Our buddy Gibbs and I were hanging out, and I had just ordered a pizza. And Doug's like, hey, he calls me and says, "Hey, I'm bringing the duck over." And so we're like, okay, so we'll go out front. There's a picnic bench that we'd sit at. And so I'm waiting for Doug, waiting for my pizza to show up. And so Doug finally arrives with this brown paper sack. And he's carrying the baby duck in a big brown paper sack. Like I'm packing a bunch of groceries to take home size paper sack. And he shows up, it's like we're making a really large drug deal on campus. And he sets it down, and he's like, all right, here's the duck. So I open it up, big empty space, little bitty yellow duck. And so I'm like, pull it out, sweet little duck. And Doug's like, well, I gotta go. So he just leaves. No instructions on how to handle the duck for a day. Supposed to give the duck to my stepmother the next day. 24 hours. What's the worst that could happen?
So the next morning, I was at work, counting bugs in a field. That is a real job. You go into a field and you count bugs. And I called Stigall about 10 in the morning, and I woke him up. And I said, hey, how's Duckbert doing? Because that's why I named him. Because, you know, the Dilbert cartoons, he had Dilbert, and he had a cat named Catbert, and then he had Ratbert. So I thought, there's no Duckbert, I'll name the bird that.
Doug told me that the duck's name was Duckbert. I thought that was a stupid name. And I decided I was going to name it Ben Affleck. It was a much better name.
He said, I changed his name to Ben Affleck. And at that moment, I hated him. Because that's a really good name for a duck. And like to this day, I'm mad at myself because he was so much more clever than me. So, yeah, he said, oh, no, Ben Affleck's fine. Films Pizza's Dr. Pepper. I was like, no, you can't feed birds Dr. Pepper. That's why there's a joke about throwing Alka-Seltzer up at seagulls. They can't burp and they blow up. He's like, I didn't feed the duck Dr. Pepper after he just told me he fed the duck Dr. Pepper.
Whatever, we ate some pizza, had some Dr. Pepper, and he's like, what? You gave the... I didn't give the... It's the same as feeding duck bread crust. I gave him bread from the pizza. Nowadays, you're not supposed to give duck bread. But back then, we didn't know that. So I fed him some bread, like some crust off the pizza. So now, like, Doug took it as, like, I fed him this whole pizza, and now he's sitting around burping in his bed.
I'm like, fine, whatever. How is he? Oh, he hadn't made a peep on my head. Like, because he's dead. He's like, he's fine. I put him in a bowl of water and put it in the drawer. And I'm like, what bowl of water? He's like, you know that gumbo pot I have? Because our supermarket, if you bought enough stuff, they gave you tickets, and you built up a page of tickets, you could get cookingware. And Chris bought this giant gumbo pot as a college student in a dorm with no kitchen. And I don't know why he did that, but he filled it with water and put the duck in it and put it in a drawer. I'm like, that's not how ducks live. He's like, he's fine. Whatever.
Doug calls me later to check on the duck. And he's like, oh, he's good. I built this little drawer and put newspaper down and a bowl with water, like just to keep him in there for the night. So he'd have water and all this. And just put him in there. So Doug's like, so how's Duck? I said, oh, Ben's good. I put him in his, like, I made him a little bed. He's there asleep.
So about 5 o'clock. No, it's about 3 o'clock. He called me up. He's like, hey, man, are you in town? No, I'm still out in the field. He's like, did you get Ben Affleck? No. Oh, no, never mind. Jared, I'm sure Jared got it. Yeah, it's cool. We're all good.
The next morning, afternoon, noonish when I wake up, and Doug calls me again. Asks how the duck is. And I said, slept all night, hadn't made a peep. He's like, okay. He's like, I'll come by after work. I'm like, cool. So I hang up the phone, go to check on the duck, pull the drawer open, the duck is gone. No sound, no nothing. Sense of panic just washes over me. I don't know what to do. Like, there was a duck and now there's not a duck. So I start searching, pulling out all the drawers, but the drawers don't come out unless you really work it. So I pull the drawers up, don't see anything. Pull the next drawer, I can get the top drawer off, and that's the only one. So I look behind them, see nothing. And so instant fear set in. We're not supposed to have animals in the dorm. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, while I'm asleep, I was a heavy sleeper. Like, what if one of the RAs came in because the bird was making noise, and he took the duck. So now somebody else knows I have a duck. Like, I'm freaking out. So I casually walk in to this guy Jared's room and, like, try to, like, nonchalant, like, hey, you guys happen to see a duck around? Like, no big deal. Just, I saw a duck yesterday. Did you see the duck? And he looks at me. He's like, no, what duck? Oh, never mind. No big deal. Bye.
So as soon as I got off work at 5, I went by. I'm like, did Jared take the duck? No. Where is he? I don't know. And you gotta picture the dorm rooms at our school. We're like 10 by 10. The windows were painted shut. I mean, regular air conditioner vents that, just had little slats the duck couldn't get through. And there wasn't a big gap under the door. The duck couldn't leave the room.
And I just was like, what could happen? Like, duck's gone. Like, it left. So I called Doug, or no, Doug shows up. So Doug shows up, and he's like, so did your mom come pick up the bird or the duck? And I said, no. Why? The duck's gone. What do you mean the duck's gone? How do you lose a duck? I don't know. I woke up the next morning and it was gone. I thought the RA took it, but obviously there's nobody knows about a duck in the dorm.
So I'm like, how did you lose a duck in this room? He's like, I have no idea what happened. He's just gone. It's like, did you take the drawers out and look in them? Yeah, man. I do not know what happened. So throughout the summer, this was kind of this question on our mind, where did this duck go? And when school started up again, like it became kind of this legend in the dorm of this missing duck that's haunting the halls. And I think deep down inside, we knew this duck wasn't flying through the vents, but that's what we like to believe.
With like hopes that it was still alive somehow, that it just happened to wander off and been living in like the air vents.
And, time went by and people were mentioning the duck, but nothing happened. So we lost him in July, and it was well into the school year. May have been after Christmas when Eric came up to me. And Eric was the RA. He had started the same time as I did. So he's my age. But this guy just towered over me.
I'm in my dorm one day, and I just start hearing this thunderous rumble, like an earthquake is like waving through the building. And so I open up the door, and then there's Doug running down the hall, and then there's Eric. This 400-pound man, vertical, flying through the air. Like a giant panel van, 15-passenger van is flying in the air and landing on Doug.
Like he was, I don't know, 6'5", and I'm barely 5'11". It's a tender 6 foot, but in real life I'm 5'11".
It's getting close to the holiday season, and there's this giant inflatable snowman in the corner of our lobby in the dorm. And Doug loved to poke the nose in it, just giggling, poking the nose. And we have this giant of a man RA who's just an unpleasant fellow to be around, who keeps getting mad at Doug for poking the nose.
So he just came up to me, he had his arms crossed, and looked down on me, and he said, Doug, I found the duck. And I was just so excited. I was so happy. What actually happened to the duck did not even go through my mind. I was like, finally we know what happened. It's like, where is it? And he just went, and walked off.
Well, I'm standing in the lobby one day, and this guy named Eric, the RA, shows up, stands behind me, like just towers over me. And he's like, so I found your duck. And I'm like, really?
And so I looked across, and all of his friends were standing there with their arms crossed, not telling me anything either. And it took like 2 or 3 weeks to figure out what happened, and I never got the full story from anyone. It's just I took a little piece from each person until I could piece it together.
And he's like, yeah. So I moved into your old room, and it started to smell over time. I couldn't find what the smell was, so I pulled out all the drawers. And he pointed out that he's like super angry and strong, and so he rips the drawers out. And he sees this big, curled up ball of something in the corner, and he goes to grab it and pokes it, and it bursts. And the carcass of the duck had exploded in Eric's face. So I look at him, and I'm like, huh, you deserve that. And then I walked off.
So what happened, like I told you, Stigall had this bowl of water in a drawer, okay, sitting there. And he woke up in the morning, and there was no duck in it. So he panicked, didn't see the duck, so he thought maybe the duck had fallen behind, which it actually had. So in his panic, he went and still saw no duck, but he'd flattened the duck behind the top drawer. So when Eric had this smell in his room that he could not figure out where it come from, he took all the drawers out, like I had told Stegall to do in the first mention of the missing duck, and he swore he had. Eric took it out, and he got a flashlight, because we didn't have them on our phones back then. Like, we actually had flashlights with batteries in our dorms, and we kept buying batteries for these things. It's like something everyone did. Took the flashlight, and in the back of the drawer, he saw the flat duck. And that's what happened.
Doug says that I kidnapped this duck, fed it pizza, murdered the duck, and then played it off like it was this big whole plan. Not at all. Completely innocent. Like, had no idea this happened. Intention was to give the duck a home. Instead, I accidentally killed a duck. Sorry.